Oh, greetings, my fellow mighty Mandos. Mavar Tegar. Welcome to another exciting, action-packed episode of Mando Vision, our 5th episode, and our first news-centric episode, for the record. Nargai Tom, and thank you so much for checking out this small, independent Star Wars podcast. If you guys have listened to the show before, you know that typically we've been revisiting Season 1 of The Mandalorian. But today is the chance for our new little Star Wars podcast to break out and do something new and exciting, because there's big Star Wars news afoot, and we're gonna have a guest on the show to join us today. We're gonna discuss the John Boyega news, the Daisy Ridley news, the Hunted CG short for Star Wars Squadrons that came out earlier this week, and of course, we're gonna talk about the trailer for the recently released trailer for Season 2 of The Mandalorian. So I'm really excited to get into this stuff. This is an episode that's going to be a little bit more in line with what the show is going to be moving forward. You know, I thought it was important to kind of get those review episodes out for Season 1, and we just dropped Episode 4 of Season 1, Chapter 4, if you will, Sanctuary. We just dropped that revisited review today. And it seemed like a good point to get into the news, because we're at the halfway point of Season 1. And why not have a news episode? Why not talk about that amazing new trailer that just came out before we get into the back half of Season 1 and we finish things up and we start doing more shows that are news-based and based on what we want to see before Season 2 starts, and then getting into brand new reviews of Season 2 as those episodes are coming out, as those shows are dropping on Disney+. It's going to be an exciting time. It's always an exciting time to be a Star Wars fan. It's even an even more exciting time to be a fan of The Mandalore, like we are, like all of us listening are. If you're a Buckethead, now is the time to rise up. This is our moment. We've been waiting for this for a long, long time. Those Jedi and Sith people, they take all the attention, they take all the love, but The Mandalore, we know what it's about. The Mandalorians are strong. That being said, we were graced by the presence of the Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Vader, in the opening of our show today. So thank you to Lord Vader for joining us for a very fine meal in Cloud City. All right, so if you're hearing beeping behind me, it's because, yet again, I cannot record this podcast without there being massive construction on the road outside my window. So thank you to the city of San Diego for blessing me with this for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Unbelievable. Anyways, so let's kind of talk about some stuff here. Let's get the news. Let's get the particulars out of the way. We're on social media. Did you guys know that? Did everyone know that? Follow us on social media at Mando_Vision on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to email the show, if you want to write a diatribe for me to read, you can do so at tomcastpopcast@gmail.com. I'll read it there. If you'd like to do anything else, well, hit me up and we'll talk about it. There is a Patreon, but we don't have to worry about Patreon right now. Don't worry about it. This is a new show. This is kind of like the test. This episode here is kind of the one of what I want to put forward for everyone to kind of see what this show is going to be about. So we're going to be joined by a guest, a good friend of mine, co-host of the Come On, It's Still Good podcast, Mr. Regan will be joining me very shortly. And Regan, for anyone who is new to the show, new to the Tomcast podcast, if you haven't heard us before, I've known Regan for 20 plus years. We're insanely tight, and he's my Vodé. We are Mandalorian brothers. We read all those Karen Travis books together, and we're fans of the Fett, who we know is not a Mandalorian. We know that, but I'm just saying that's what started it for all of us, isn't it? Isn't that what all got us here was Boba Fett? Then we all get kicked in the head and told that he's not a Mandalorian. That's for another show, though. All right, so we're gonna link up with Regan, and we are gonna get into some big time Star Wars news. So strap on your bucket and get ready. It's gonna be a great show. All right, here we go.
Please lower your blaster.
Have them lower theirs first.
We have you 4-1.
I like those odds.
All right, joining me now via the Skype, we are joined by the host, the undefeated host of Come On, It's Still Good, a movie podcast that is filled with nostalgia and good times. This is Regan. Regan, how are you?
I'm good, my friend. Thanks for having me back.
You have your title belt
Still
on.
undefeated.
Still undefeated.
Always.
Still
undefeated.
You guys just dropped the episode where you went back and revisited Can't Hardly Wait, and that was a listening experience for me, at least.
Yeah, thank you. If that movie didn't have such a good soundtrack, I don't know if I'd be undefeated anymore. But that soundtrack takes me back to a simpler time in life.
Sure. I listened to the episode, and when you said that, I distinctly had a memory. Like, I flashed back, and I don't know if it was 98, 99, somewhere around there, when all of us as a group came out of seeing American Pie 2, and I'm pretty sure I looked at you and I said, every song in that movie is in a CD in my car.
Yeah. Was that 2 or 1?
It was definitely in 2, mostly in 1. Those soundtracks were very much...
I remember you talking about seeing... You went and saw 1, I think, with Mark.
Yeah, we got invited...
And talked about how pumped you were for this band called Blink-182.
my brother and I got to go to like a test screening of the first American Pie movie. But I think en masse, as a group of friends, we all went and saw 2 together, like opening weekend or whatever.
How could that go wrong?
How could that go wrong? You know, everyone was in love with Tara Reid. What could you do?
I mean, wait till the Van Wilder episode of my podcast.
Ooh, I can't. I can't. But listen, we're here. We're doing double duty today. We're recording for both the Tomcast Popcast and Mando Vision.
That's right. First guest on Mando Vision. Very excited about it.
Right? You are my Vodé, my bucket brother.
Oh.
You get it.
Well, thank you. I missed that timeline so badly.
Oh, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But listen, let's get to the big thing that happened earlier this week, my friend. The trailer for season 2 of The Mandalorian.
Oh, holy jeez, was that good? And it's coming up soon. I don't have to wait that long for it.
No, it's gonna be.
They throw a lot at you really fast.
They sure do. And it's not even like a long trailer. It's like maybe a minute.
2,
right? 2 tops.
I was gonna say like 2 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, but you get like so many like fun little glimpses of things, and it's such a wonderful showcase of just how much that Star Wars, that this corner of the Star Wars galaxy is expanding. It seems to be we're staying a little bit with George Lucas's formula of like one planet, one ecosystem, because we have a water planet. We get to see them on a boat. We get to go to like a gladiator planet with Gamorrean guards fighting against Zabrex, the Darth Maul people.
Yeah, awesome.
I
love the Darth Maul people. You haven't seen them outside of what was that Clone Wars?
Yeah,
Darth Maul and his brother.
Yeah, not often outside of that. Yeah.
And what are the witches called? Or the sisters?
The Dathomir Night Sisters?
Yeah, the Night Sisters.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've watched the Clone. I should go back and watch all the Clone Wars again.
It definitely feels like they're gonna start tying a lot of that stuff together. We see our mighty Mandalorian and Baby Yoda on a snowy planet, which is possibly Ilum from which we saw in Fallen Order, the video game. Legendary home of the Jedi at one point.
Which one's Fallen Order? Is that
the video game? You fucking
out?
Never played it, did you?
No, that's why I was like, is that the one with the Joker from Gotham?
Yes, that's the one with Joker from Gotham.
Yeah.
I forgot you never fucking played that game.
I will. It'll come to Game Pass eventually, and I'll be all over that shit.
No, it's just a rumor. No one knows for sure if it's actually Ilum or Ilum, however it's actually pronounced. But it does sort of kind of look like what we saw in the video game.
I mean, why doesn't he just go to like Yavin 4?
Not important. Yavin 4. Come on.
Doesn't Luke build it? Oh, that's old.
That's old canon.
That's old
that
shit.
Count.
You see, you knew exactly where I was going. I had to stop myself. That doesn't exist anymore. He doesn't build a Jedi temple there.
Yeah, for anyone listening, like Regan is in the same old continuity that I am, and you kind of jumped ship after they rebooted the continuity. You're like, I'm out. Fuck it.
It was getting so bogged down, man.
Oh, sure, but you didn't even want the clean slate there. You're like, nah, I'm good.
For the right, I have a Zahn book in there that I got 3 years ago for Christmas that I will open one day, but I'm so. I tell you, it's like the heroin addict finding his old stash bag, and he's just slowly unzipping it. Like that's what I feel when I try and open that book, because man, that was an addiction for a while. We'd be like, oh man, that new Star Wars, that new Stackpole came out today. We got to go rock it.
Oh man, the Stackpole books. Yeah. Oof.
Yeah, I know. That's a deep cut right there. Because he hasn't read Star Wars in a long time.
Ooh, his old X-wing series, and he's doing those. What was it? It was part of that one series, right?
He wrote the Vong, like one book in the Vong series. That was the last one he did, when he took Corran Horn and he went home with him. He was like, "No one's going to use this character anymore.
Yeah,
I'm out."
Right. You're right. Yeah, because he did that, the X-wing books, and then the I Jedi, and then he went to the Vong and finished the arc.
I Jedi was a good book too, man.
Yeah, but again, old canon that no one cares about except us.
No, I was listening to another podcast that you refused to listen to.
That I refuse to listen to? Okay.
We fought about one of the guys on there. Your wife would be into it.
And they were talking about Star Wars? Aren't they supposed to talk about their own fucking show?
They talk, or one of them talks about, because he's in a Star Wars show, but he also talks about Star Wars nonstop. But he was talking about his hatred of the Yuzlong Vong today. And I was like, get fucked, man. Nam Anor was the shit.
Yeah, that was your boy.
Oh, man, it was so cool. I mean, did it get played out? Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we needed a 19-book series with the Yuzlong Vong.
No.
But I thought I enjoyed most of it, I think.
It really dragged at the middle, and then it, like, I wish they had more of a plan other than just, let's kill Chewbacca and see where it goes from there.
Sure.
But I liked it when they were just murdering, like, main characters all over the place.
We are a little off topic from the Mandalorian trailer, just for the record.
Are we?
A little bit, yeah. A little bit.
I mean, we're in Star Wars still.
I mean, we were talking about Gamorrean guards and Zabrix, and that
the
Mandalorian's beaten up. We're talking about Ilum. Who is, remind me the wrestler's name who is in the series this season?
Sasha Banks.
Sasha Banks.
Boss.
I kept wanting to call her, I don't know, other Banks from fucking Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Uncle Phil?
No, what's the one daughter's name?
That's gonna murder me. It's Hillary.
Hillary Banks. I kept wanting to call her Hillary Banks.
And then Ashley, I think, was the younger daughter.
Yeah, you're right.
Knowledge right there.
Yeah, so just a glimpse of her as like a mysterious character. We don't know who or what she is. She's wearing a black cloak. Disappears.
You haven't been reading the internet, huh?
I try not to read the internet. I know there's a lot of theories that she's like Sabine Wren.
That's right. I was all there as soon as I saw her. I was like, oh, she'd be about the right age.
I would be curious.
She is Mandalorian. Katie Stackoff's in this season.
Yeah. Hey, it's entirely possible. Entirely possible. I'll be curious. I don't with this show, I don't want to read too much because I really enjoy just watching it and processing it all as it happens. So I had even kind of forgotten that she was on the casting sheet, you know, and until you said it, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Katie Sackhoff is in this season of the show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I read some stuff about Captain Rex might be in this season.
Yep. I've come across that a little bit too. But we also we didn't get a glimpse of Timothy Olyphant as his Mandalorian character, who is apparently rocking around in Boba Fett's armor. If rumors are to be true.
I can't see that in a trailer. I'll lose my mind.
Yeah,
they gotta hide that from me as long as they can.
I think you're right about that because I don't think I'd be able to go to work anymore. Like I would just be like, I have to watch this every second of every day of my life.
Yeah, I'd call my boss and be like, look, I'm going to need a minute. I'm just going to watch the Mandalorian trailer on repeat for like a day. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, as if you and I are not already big enough Timothy Olyphant fans, but to see him decked out in Mandalorian gear would probably just like send our hearts all aflutter.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Love him.
Yeah.
Love him.
It's hard to say too much about this trailer because it is, I mean, it's mostly visuals. There's a snippet of actual dialogue. The voiceover is from the final episode of season 1, where they're talking about the Mandalore versus the Jedi sorcerer wizard people. You know, in our mighty Mandalorian, saying, you want me to take him to a bunch of wizard enemy sorcerers? I don't think so.
Yep. It'll be fine.
It'll
be fine.
But that is the way. That is the way. That's all that matters.
But that, like, when that part is going, like, you got to find the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see Sasha Banks. At first, I thought it was Rosario Dawson.
That was my first thought as well when I first.
And then I looked. I was like, I don't even like it because it's so quick. And then I just happened to be on the internet and saw Sasha Banks tweeted about it. And I was like, why is Sasha Banks tweeting about The Mandalorian? I guess she's a big fan. And I was like, oh, that was Sasha Banks in the trailer. That's awesome.
Well, I had the same thought because like she kind of had a Rosario Dawson-esque look with the hood on. I mean, you can't see a lot of the features. It's a very quick glimpse. But she definitely didn't look like Ahsoka, which is the rumor for Rosario's as she's playing Ahsoka.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, that can't be right unless they're doing something crazy.
Yeah.
And maybe they could be. Like I said, the best thing about The Mandalorian was like how secretive it was in that first season. Like we didn't know what was coming. It was awesome.
No.
None of us had any fucking clue that Baby Yoda was showing up in the first episode.
No, not until like you see it's a little baby carriage, and you're like, oh, they said it was 50.
Yeah, but did you still expect to see Yoda inside of it?
No.
And then
I would love to be like, yeah, I called that.
No, you didn't. No one called that. The hood drops back, and you see the ears, and you do the same thing that the rest of the world did, which is like, oh my fucking god, it's a little Baby Yoda.
Yeah, that's great.
And all of our hearts were instantly captured. I now have the cereal. I'm with you. I also have 47 Baby Yoda Funko Pop dolls that all look the same. I don't even know what's going on in here.
Yeah.
They're all
at least posed different? I can see them. Are they different poses? Or
very slightly.
Why are there so many?
Very slightly different poses. They're often holding different items. like one holds a bowl of bone broth, and one has the little knob, and one has
the little ball. Yeah.
I have a problem, Regan. I'm sorry.
Oh,
this is also why I now have a Mandalorian Star Wars podcast.
Well, that's all right. I was out at Target with my wife this week, and go ahead and judge me. Yeah, we were doing some grocery shopping.
Well, your brother will judge you. I don't need to.
Oh, I know. Guys got to get some groceries once in a while. But I stopped at the Funkos to see if they had any Baby Yodas you might not have had. And I was like, I'd have sent them a picture, and I'll hold them hostage when you finally come back east. I'll set them on fire.
I'm trying to see if one's in arm's distance from me, but there's not at the moment. I think I set them all up behind me. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to kind of talk too much about the trailer because it's just like quick hits of ba 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 ba. Just awesome imagery, the killer voiceover. This is the way at the end, and we're excited. And you do what you did and what I did, and when you kind of go back through that casting information, where you're like, oh yeah, Katie Sackhoff, and you have Rosario Dawson, and this is going to be amazing. And you just kind of realize like what the tiniest taste is all we got, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
I'm so excited for the season. It's 6 weeks.
Yeah, not far at all. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, so I got 4 more boys weeks, and then I'm gonna have 2 dead spot weeks, where it's very sad.
Archer's back. You'll be fine.
That's only 30 minutes once a week, man.
We'll find something for you. Don't worry.
Yeah. I'm gonna be watching a lot of horror movies. I'm sorry.
All right, don't worry about it. All right, hang on a second. We'll be right back with Regan. If you're listening to Mando Vision. Otherwise, I'll see you in a second. All right, Regan, we're back. We're doing more Star Wars talk because so much more has happened other than the amazing Star Wars Mandalorian Season 2 trailer. You got a chance to sit down and watch Hunted, very recently.
Yes.
Right before we did the show.
That's right.
The CG animated little short that Electronic Arts released prior to the Star Wars Squadron game coming out on the 3rd of October. How would you think?
I thought it looked amazing, and I assume this is just going to be the opening to the game.
I don't know, because
You think they?
well,
I thought it was going to be a cutscene before the game starts.
I think this is just to make sure we buy the damn thing.
It's a Star Wars video game. They don't need that.
I kind of think they do. Because I was really excited about the fact that this animated short in particular follows an Imperial pilot in a TIE fighter, and it kind of shows the other side of the war, which is something we don't see a ton of in a lot of Star Wars stuff.
A little in Battlefront 2.
A little.
I don't
bit
know if you played that.
No, a little bit in
a
there.
lot of people
sure.
hate on it. I enjoyed it for what it was.
I mean, I you couldn't help watching the Hunted short and not thinking that the Rebel pilot's a bit of a dickbag. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Like,
why is he hunting? Why is he going into the trash pile? They've obviously already defeated the Empire. One TIE fighter is not a threat to anything.
Right. And he's like, "War's over, imp." Just like unnecessarily trying to kill this one single man. His Star Destroyer left him behind. He's got nowhere to go. His TIE fighter's barely functioning, and this Rebel pilot is just mercilessly hunting him down like a wounded animal.
Yeah, which goes against. Although, were you rooting for I was rooting for the Empire the whole time because it's a Star Wars video game. So immediately I root for the Empire.
Actually, yes. I'm not gonna lie with you. I was the trailer struck a specific chord with me because, much like you, I am from the '90s. I played X-Wing and TIE Fighter on my computer when I was a kid, and I love them dearly. But TIE Fighter was the game where like you could join the Sith cults and do all that cool stuff. Yeah. So I was all in on that shit.
I love chasing down Z95 headhunters.
Ooh, they're so slow.
Can't maneuver in that.
We didn't even talk about the X-Wings showing up in the Mandalorian trailer, but I mean, come on. How cool was that?
Yeah.
I love being an X-Wing fighter. I do love being an X-Wing fighter.
Not there to help him.
No. We're talking about the Empire in this positive light right now, but I'm not going to lie. I love me an X-Wing fighter. Show me an X-Wing and I'm excited.
Oh, yeah. Oh, especially when it's locked in attack position.
Yeah,
and you get to see it lock.
Well,
with the movement.
And X-Wing versus the Razor Crest in this new trailer for where it's like even better. You're like, oh my god, I love the X-Wings, but I love the Mandalorian. No, what's gonna happen? Yeah. Sorry, back to the video game though.
I think Mando's gonna be all right.
I think Mando's gonna be okay too. Maybe you'll probably just make the X-Wings crash together. Who knows? Anyways, I mean, was this a game you were excited about already? I mean, it's been announced since early spring, I think.
Yeah, I watched the original trailer when it came out. It's like, oh, cool, they're doing like another X-Wing type game.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, EA has honestly dropped the ball with so many Star Wars video games.
Sure.
Like with the loot box thing where I think they got sued in Europe over.
Ooh, yeah.
And lost. Like, and they can't, like, I think it's considered gambling now, like loot boxes in video games. And so, but they scaled that back.
You might be right.
But like, thankfully, like, cause pay to win is a terrible way to play a video game.
Yeah. No, agreed.
Yeah, EA's not the only one. Like, Rockstar's notorious for doing it. Like, go play Red Dead Online or Grand Theft Online.
That's why I don't play online though. Like if it doesn't happen within the confines of the main game, I don't have much interest in it, and I don't really want to fall for those kind of like, oh, now you have to go online and do this thing. I fell for that with Mass Effect 3, but it wasn't a pay for thing. It was just like, strengthen your armies by going online and playing the game. You didn't have to buy those packs. Like you could still achieve your missions.
Well. They also had loot boxes in Mass Effect 3.
They did.
I spent way too much money on some stupid-ass loot before I thought about what I was doing.
Well, okay, okay, you're the dumb guy here in this equation, because I didn't.
Well, no, it'd be like, oh, I want that gun. I'm gonna spend $10 real quick and get 14 loot boxes and see what I get out of it. And it's just a click of a button, so you're not really thinking about it.
No, I totally understand. I mean, think about,
Ugh.
and obviously that's why it's a big deal nowadays. Because I mean, obviously these games are targeted at a much younger audience that only has access to their parents' credit cards. So, hence the real problem. But overall, I'm excited for the game. If they were just to release Star Wars flight simulator games, I would be insanely happy for the rest of my life. Those games were so much fun to me, just flying around in different Star Wars ships.
Yeah, now that you said it came out October 3rd, I'm like, that's really soon. I might, get it
And listen,
and play it for a whole weekend.
It's at a very affordable pre-order price of $40 on Amazon right now.
I might go look into that.
Which is a far cry from the 60 that is normally associated with new games. But also makes it also makes me weary that it's gonna be a not great game, or like maybe 2 or 3 hours of content, and then I gotta like download a bunch of shit.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be DLC, but as long as I hope they put the feature where I can go and play like both sides of like famous Star Wars battles, like they used to do for like Rogue Squadron.
Yeah.
Like you could do the battle for Endor. That was my favorite battle to do. I loved it because you started it up and it was just Akbar telling you it's a trap.
Oh, it's the only.
And you're flying your little A-wing. It was awesome.
That was the only fucking game worth buying on the GameCube.
Yeah, and it was great.
I
wish those things would come to Switch.
Nintendo's greatest folly, the GameCube.
Owned one.
You did, and that's how I played Star Wars Rogue Squadron on your GameCube.
Oh, what a waste of money, though! I think I only had like Rogue Squadron. I probably had a 2K game, like a 2K football game, when those were a thing.
2K was on GameCube?
Probably.
I don't think that's right. Those were Sega games.
That was the original run of 2K. I mean, come on, man. We got a Dreamcast, and we had 2K on that.
2K football on Dreamcast was like the best thing ever.
Barry Sanders was the shit on the original 2K game.
Dude, calling plays on the little memory card in your controller so your opponent couldn't see what you're doing, that was the best.
They had so many good ideas.
And then EA fucked everyone by buying the exclusive rights to the NFL.
Yeah, and now that game apparently is awful.
That game's been garbage for 6 or 7 years.
I'm annoyed what they've done to the... You know how much I love a good franchise mode.
Yeah.
And just how they've shit on franchise mode because they want me to do like this online fantasy football bullshit.
Nope.
Like, what are you talking... But my nephew, who's 10... trying to think how old P is.
Oh my God.
He's so into it. Like, it drives my sister insane.
Well, listen.
But that's... but we're down another rabbit hole.
We're down a rabbit hole.
This is Mando.
We got to get off this because we got a few other things to talk about real quick. All right. So listen.
Desi.
We're talking about The Mandalorian, so we should probably announce that, hey, by the way, Baby Yoda now has some Emmys in his pocket, in his little baby pocket.
Yep.
They got Emmys for...
He's adorable.
Well, I don't think adorable is an award necessarily, but it should be. But they won in the technical categories. They won Outstanding Cinematography and Outstanding VFX. They won Outstanding Sound Editing, Production Design, and Sound Mixing. And that's just 5 awards. And that's not even the main show. The main Emmys are this weekend. Like, Baby Yoda could come home with some serious hardware, buddy.
Good. Give me like 30 seasons. Get me some spin-off shows already.
Yeah. The Cara Dune show would be amazing.
Love it. Although she got into I read some stuff, like people trying to get her removed from the show. Cancel culture's coming after her.
I think
hardcore.
I think Jon Favreau is going to protect her on that because I think it's bullshit. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole necessarily, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was preparing for this show, waiting in line at the post office today and reading all sorts of Mandalorian news. And I was like, what do people want to get her fired for? Like, and then I started reading and I was like, okay, she doesn't agree with you, but she's not saying these bad things you say she's saying. Don't get her off the show. She's fantastic.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more to the story, and I hope that she's talking with Favreau and Filoni and the Disney people, and I think this is getting blown out of proportion, and this is becoming. I think this is a lot of like that kind of toxic fandom that we talked a little bit about before. I think they're coming after her because she's become a prominent member of Star Wars now, and she's a female, and people aren't down with that necessarily. For
I
whatever
thought it was
reasons.
other females coming after her, but it might be fanboys, just like when when they made John the first Black Stormtrooper.
Well, we're gonna talk about more about that a little bit. Yeah.
We'll get to, and I'm just trying to think of all the other shitty things. What's Rose's real name? Marie Tran.
Maria. Yes.
Tran?
Kelly Marie Tran.
Yeah, people just being so shitty to her that she left social media, which is probably the best thing for her to do.
Yeah.
Because they didn't like a stupid movie, and as much as I hate that movie, she is not the problem with that movie.
No.
Either of those two movies.
I'm as far as this.
I guess you can count she's in the second one.
I mean, focusing specifically on Gina Carano's situation,
yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, until someone officially addresses this on behalf of Disney and The Mandalorian, I am just writing it off to rumors. I'll let them deal with it in-house. It's not up to me.
Right.
I don't know if that's me being a little naive or whatever, but I think so much stuff gets blown out of proportion nowadays, and like you said, cancel culture is so predominant, and I'm not necessarily a fan of cancel culture. So I'd rather wait till more facts were kind of out there.
Yes, I'm fine with it if there are facts to back it up.
Mm-hmm.
But if I have to dig around to try and figure out what people are talking about,
yeah,
I need more.
And you, like me, we're inherently lazy. Like if it requires more than 2 or 3 clicks, I'm done.
Yeah. Well, that's why I was clicking around, because it's it's The Mandalorian, and I was like, I don't want something bad to happen to The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
But I did tease earlier about my Mandalorian news, and if you had heard,
right, what you got?
Did you hear the Mandalorian himself might have been fired during this season?
No.
There are rumors circling that he did not want to wear the helmet in certain episodes anymore.
Pedro Pascal?
Yes.
That doesn't make any sense. He's barely in the suit to begin with.
Apparently, he does not like wearing the suit. This 100% speculation right now. It's just I read it somewhere, and and he went to Lucasfilm, and he went above the showrunners, because the showrunners were like, "No, you're the Mandalorian. You wear the helmet. Like, we've built it in that it's religion, dum dum."
Yeah, I don't know if I buy much of this, honestly.
I don't buy it either, but they were saying that's why Favreau said they're expanding the universe and going on to other characters, because the Mandalorian might die halfway through the season.
Well, I mean, I've only talked about it a little bit in previous episodes of WandaVision, but I mean, Pedro Pascal's barely on the show. he does the voiceover stuff, but yeah. it's I forget the act. There's 2 actors who basically play the Mandalorian on the show, and it's not him. So he's barely suited up. This rumor sounds like garbage to me.
I thought it was a fun rumor.
I
thought it was bananas. Because
yeah.
I was like, when you saw anyone who's ever seen Star Wars wants to dress up like the Mandalorian.
Right.
So it's bananas to me that someone's like, oh, I don't want to wear this awesome T-shaped visor.
Right. No.
So that's why I was called bullshit on it.
No,
I read it. I thought it was funny.
I totally agree with you. And like I said, it's 2 other actors. One of them is like John Wayne's grandson, and then
awesome.
Gosh darn, I don't have my fucking notepad next to me, so I had it. Oh, here it is. Hang on. Brendan Wayne and Lateef Crowder are the guys who spent like 95% of the time in season 1 in the Mandalorian costume. Brendan Wayne's doing a lot of the stalking around, walking stuff, and Lateef does all the action scenes. So Pedro is barely in the suit. He showed up to do ADR, and he showed up to talk to the actors so that they could do like cohesive performances together.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Pedro was announced like way after the show was even done filming. So I don't buy into that at all. And if we hear it on a trusted media outlet, I'll be happy to talk about it on this podcast. But For the time being, by the way, since we are still talking about The Mandalorian, even though we've gone into two different topics, I should also mention this season.
It's all the same.
This season of The Mandalorian, by the way, you have two new directors joining the fold. You have Peyton Reed, who did Ant-Man 1 and 2, and the legendary Robert Rodriguez. How cool is that?
I saw that Robert Rodriguez was directing an episode, and I was like, if he does it like El Mariachi,
right?
Where it's just Mando rolling into a town
with a guitar case full of weapons.
Yeah, but like no, he'll just like instead of the guitar case, it'll be the baby carriage, or he'll have like a little Yoda handle where like he'll be like in a little onesie.
Yeah.
But he'll have him in a handle, on his back, so he can just carry Baby Yoda around.
No, lots of possibilities there. I'm excited to see that Rodriguez is getting into Star Wars because he's always been one of my favorites, and he's done some eclectic movies over the years for sure.
Yeah. Have you watched The Mexican lately?
No.
It is a good time, man.
I remember it being a good time. I'm glad to hear you saying that, though.
Yeah. I watched it a couple years ago, but it had been like a since probably you and I went and watched it in Rio or something when it came out. This was probably the last time I watched it. Because at one point I was like, oh, right, Johnny Depp was in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, and he calls someone like Sugar Tush or something, I think.
Yeah.
I got two more things I want to pick your brain about real quick because I know you got to get going here shortly. But two things kind of came up with actors from the sequel trilogy. John Boyega came out and talked about sort of like the negative feelings he had towards the way his character Finn was handled, specifically in parts 2 and 3. And then Daisy Ridley also came out and talked about the sort of confusion about Rey's origins and kind of how it changed every 5 minutes or so, depending on who was in charge of the movie. What were your thoughts on reading some of these articles and seeing these stories?
On John's, I agree, because in The Force Awakens, his story is very interesting, and you'd like to know more or see where he's going to go and grow. And he just kind of hangs around in the background, because he has that great lightsaber, not great light. He gets his ass kicked, but like when he's trying to defend Rey, like that, he's trying to have his hero moment, and he gets his ass whooped. And then he tries to commit suicide in the second one.
Does he?
He tries to run the ship.
Oh yeah. When he's going into the yeah.
I'm exaggerating. I mean, he's gonna die if
he's trying to make
Rose doesn't.
I would say that's so more like the noble sacrifice sort of ish. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it is a suicide run. You're right. Yeah.
I wish they had done more because I thought his character could have been really interesting.
I mean, to be fair, like all of the characters I thought got the shaft in the third one. I'm not a huge fan of the third one by any means.
I'm not either, but I hate the second one so much.
I understand. I'm not going to argue about. I'm not going to argue with you about that one on this show.
That's for a
different podcast.
Yeah.
But I know where you're coming from with it. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the characters got shortchanged for sure. And
absolutely.
Finn and Rose and they're just a tip of the iceberg. But I thought it was interesting what Boyega was saying about how it seemed like it was happening to a lot more often to the characters of color, of not white ethnicity. Jesus Christ. You know what I'm saying?
Ethnicity.
Yes,
gotcha.
Ethnicity. Thank you. Good Lord. I had a beer or two.
I mean, you can't. He's not wrong.
Yeah, I agree.
Because like we already talked about Kelly Marie Tran, how she's a focal point in the second one,
and just backburnered in the third.
Yeah, and it's because they have to shoehorn a dead Leia in there, and I love Carrie.
I felt like more like they had to shoehorn a dead Palpatine in there. To me.
that too, but. Oh, there's so many problems. Like, I wish there was one guy with a singular. Like, if JJ wanted to make 3 Star Wars movies, JJ should have oversaw 3 Star Wars movies.
Sure. Yeah, no,
not hand the rings over.
it was unfortunate, specifically in the case of Finn, because it was a character rife with potential for all kinds of really great stuff. And it seemed like in the original draft that Colin Trevorrow submitted for episode 9, it seemed like Finn had a really big arc with like leading this kind of like stormtrooper rebellion that just kind of like fizzled out in the final product.
Yeah, you got to find like a dead body and a snake and heal the snake, and important shit's going on.
Let's not talk about that. But no, so yeah, I agree. I agree with John. I'm glad John's talking about these things, and I'll support John Boyega on these things because it was unfortunate. I mean, I don't blame anyone necessarily. There's a lot of expectation and a lot of pressure for these movies to be successful, and I'm sure JJ didn't do it to spite Finn as a character or to spite John Boyega as a person. But it's just sucked the way it was handled.
It just happened to be that way. But like you could say the same thing about Poe.
Yeah, no, Poe 100%. Poe gets shoehorned into becoming Han Solo, which I'm like, I don't think Poe's ever supposed to be Han Solo. But they just wanted to go for like familiar paradigms.
Yeah. It wasn't necessary at all. And like as much as I hate the second movie, I wish JJ didn't go backwards to try and retcon as much as he did in episode 8, try and retcon it in 9.
No,
be like, no.
I guess my biggest complaint about the sequel trilogy, specifically 8 and 9, is like, don't make me feel like I wasted my time watching these movies, but they both did. Yeah. But again, we'll pick those apart more on a more detailed show. Yeah. By the way, I just want to highlight real quick. I'm drinking Sierra Nevada's Oktoberfest. I didn't share that earlier. Sorry. It's delightful. What did you think about Daisy though? Daisy was on with Josh Gad, who I guess is filling in for Jimmy Kimmel. I don't care for Josh Gad much. I don't know about you.
He is hilarious on Avenue 5. I know you haven't watched it yet.
No, you've told me about Avenue 5.
Hysterical. Like out there, if you're out there listening, watch Avenue 5. Hugh Laurie at his best. Like if you like funny Hugh Laurie and also dickish Hugh Laurie, you're gonna love this show.
Well, like I said, I don't care much for Gad as an actor, but like as an interviewer, he's actually, I think he's a quite good interviewer. He's been doing all these like celebrity reunion things during COVID and during the pandemic, getting all these casts back together.
He did the Goonies, right?
He did the Goonies, he did Ghostbusters. He's done a ton of them, and I think he's really good at it. And so he had Daisy on for Kimmel, and she basically came out and kind of said what we all sort of thought. Like, oh, they didn't really know what they were going to do with Rey from the get-go. It was like, she was a Kenobi at one point, then they were like, oh yeah, nobody. You're nobody. Then you're a Kenobi again, or you're a Palpatine, or you're somebody else, or you're, I don't know. It was hard to kind of, I guess it wasn't surprising is what I'm getting at.
Oh, not at all. Like, I was like, yeah, that showed up in the final product. Like, I get that. Because it's obvious they didn't know.
It just seems, and again, we've talked a little bit about the toxicity of fandom, specifically in regards to Star Wars, but it seems like the people in charge of Star Wars right now are so fearful of the fans that they're never going to make a good Star Wars thing ever again.
Maybe. I
mean, I think that's why.
Well, you got The Mandalorian.
Well, I was gonna say, I think that's why Favreau and Filoni are so interesting, because like I don't think Favreau cares about that. I think Favreau knows what story he wants to tell, and he's going to tell it. And Filoni is, for lack of a better term, he's sort of Lucas's protege. Like, he learned firsthand from Lucas what Star Wars is and how it should be distilled, and the right ways to look at things from the Star Wars perspective. So I don't know. I don't want to pit Filoni and Favreau versus Kathleen Kennedy and the execs at Disney, because we don't want a Star Wars civil war. That's not what you want.
Yeah,
it's just interesting.
Not. But I definitely think they should still be doing movies every year. Like, December did not feel right without a Star Wars movie.
Well, nothing feels right this year, but yeah, last year either.
December was before everything shut down last year. We still had lives and would go to theaters.
Well, new listeners to the MandoVision podcast will not be familiar with this, but on the Tomcast Popcast, we have been advocating for almost 2 years that Han Solo should have become a series on Disney Plus, and that Darth Vader should become a series on Disney Plus.
Absolutely.
And you don't have
The Adventures of Lando Calrissian just writes itself.
Well, I was gonna say, like, the Han Solo show doesn't even have to be about Han Solo. Like, it's just like an anthology of kind of like the Star Wars underworld. And in some episodes have Han, some have Lando, some have the bounty hunters like Boba Fett and IG-88 and Dengar. I mean, it could be a whole thing. Like, this is what we've been pushing on this show, but no one's listening to us, Reagan. Sorry.
Unfortunately. It'd be great.
I'm gonna send this episode up to Hollywood. We're gonna make it happen, Captain. Don't worry.
You pin it to everybody's door.
Well, listen,
Make them listen to it.
I'm keeping you long as it is, but I'm gonna let you go right now. I can't thank you enough for doing this for Mando Vision.
It's my pleasure.
For the Tomcast Popcast, you are Reagan. You are the host of the Come On, It's Still Good podcast. Thank you, and I will talk to you soon, my friend.
All right, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No, we'll be back. We'll be back in touch soon, buddy. Don't worry.
Oh, I know we will.
Vodé.
So much fun.
Hey, so there it is. That's the episode. That is our first show with a guest, a live actual human being besides me, besides Tom, on Mando Vision. And we were Regan from the Come On It's Still Good podcast was gracious enough to join us and have a good time talking about all good things Mandalorian and Star Wars. And as I alluded to at the beginning of the show, Regan and I have known each other for over 20 years now. We are both diehard Star Wars fans together. We've watched the films with each other countless times. We stood in line for episode 1 together to get our tickets for that, and for episode 2 and for episode 3. We we did all that. But in specifics for as far as the Mandalorian culture goes, we worked together at one point in Bethesda, Maryland, at a law firm there, and we would go on our lunch breaks the day of the new release for the Karen Travis novels or whatever new Star Wars book was coming out. We would go down to the Barnes & Noble that was a block or so away from our offices, and we would go and pick that up. And very often, and we commuted, so we would sit on the metro in DC and ride back up to the Rockville or Twin Station, wherever it was we were going. And we would often read our Star Wars books in quiet, in silence, side by side. And then we would discuss it later the next day when we each had read 7 or 8 more chapters of it, because that was a point in our lives where we could just read books all day long and everyone left us alone. Those days are long gone, but he is my Vodé. He is my Mandalorian brother, my bucket brother, as it were. And I'm so grateful that he was willing to join me for this episode of Mandovision. But also, you might notice there was a little editing done. There's a big chunk of the conversation that was reserved exclusively for the Tomcast Popcast. So if you're new to what I do on podcasting, I don't mean to do a little bait and switch. I only had a limited amount of time with Reagan. So we did a big conversation, and I kind of cut it up between podcasts. If you'd like to hear us talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe and The Boys and PlayStation 5, head over to Tomcast Podcast. You can get that end of the conversation over there. Otherwise, if you're just here for the Star Wars, you got everything you needed. You got the Mandalorian. You got the Hunted cinematic short for the Squadrons game. You got some John Boyega. You got some Daisy Ridley conversation. A really fun time. And I know we were a little rushed at the end there when we were talking about Boyega and Daisy Ridley stories. But I think it was pretty clear that we're both pretty much on Boyega's side, that he was kind of done dirty to a certain extent. Finn started off as a very prominent character in The Force Awakens, and he kind of loses steam in each subsequent episode, whether it's 8 and 9. Definitely by 9, I mean, he's reduced to he's barely even tertiary at that point. Yeah, which is a disservice to the potential that the Finn character had, and that's unfortunate. And again, something we'll probably talk about, countless times on Mandovision is the sequel trilogy and what went right, what went wrong, and I would say that Finn's arc falls a little flat, and you can agree or disagree with me. I'm happy to have that conversation on the podcast, and like I said, that goes for Poe as well. I mean, obviously the disservice to Rose Tico is right on Front Street, but only I guess only if you're in the same perspective as a lot of us are, as far as that goes. It's hard to say. I'm trying to kind of walk that razor's edge between being on one side or the other. But I think of as a fan of story, you're like, this person was prominent in this, and then they're gone in the next. Like, you can't help but wonder, like, what the fuck is that about? Anyways, not to get too crazy on that. So this was the second episode of MandoVision in one day. We just re-reviewed Chapter 4, Sanctuary. That dropped earlier today. I'm going to drop this tonight. We're having MandoVision 5 out tonight. And then next week, you'll get the review on Chapter 5. Because we're getting to the revisiteds. And as long as Star Wars news is coming out, which it seems to be happening, this podcast is going to be going full steam ahead with revisited episodes and the news episodes. And speaking of which, Regan sent me the link that he was referring to, in which it claimed that Pedro Pascal quit halfway through the filming of season 2 and the allegations. Listen, I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'll come back on this podcast and admit that I'm wrong. But it seemed like a complete clickbait article with, fake quotes from unnamed sources and not a lot of actual data to support it. I don't know why all of a sudden Pedro Pascal, who again was barely featured in season 1, would all of a sudden decide that, hey, I'm wearing this costume and I want to be unmasked for all of it. Dude, you were barely in this. Brendan Wayne and Lateef Crowder carried your ass for like 95% of the filming of the first season. So to me, it all read as completely made up clickbait article, and it just no sources that I thought were valid or believable. If I'm wrong, we'll come back on the podcast and we'll talk about how wrong that was. I got no problem admitting I'm wrong, but until I see it on an accredited news source, it's not worth even talking about or speculating. So with that being said, thank you so very much for listening to this episode of MandoVision. This has been number 5, but our first news-based episode of Star Wars talk, Star Wars fan talk, fired up nerdery. This is what we like to do on the show. The fired up nerdery is what I live for. Again, thank you so much for listening. If you're not following us already on social media, do so at Mando_Vision on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to email me, you can do so at tomcastpopcast@gmail.com, which is the sister podcast of the show, the Tomcast Popcast. And if there's anything else you can do for the show, if you're liking the show and you want to spread the word, make sure you are subscribed to the show, you're liking the show, you're sharing the show with all your friends and family and all your loved ones, and give us those 5-star reviews, particularly on Apple Podcast. That affects the algorithm. That gets us into more eyeballs, so they see what we're doing over here, and it gets us more listens, which is always a good thing because we want this audience to grow. I think we're doing a fun fan-based show. We're not trying to claim to be insiders, and we're not trying to claiming to be mega super smart, insightful buttholes. But we're just fans, and we're just having a good time. We all strap on the bucket when we can, and that's what this podcast is. This is who it's for, and this is what it's all about. Strapping on that buckets. And as those bucketheads like to say, this is the way. See you soon.
Look, there must be some mistake. I can get you more credits.
I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.